Okay, good. So, finally weekend and stuff. I tried to. I think I've worked something on trial at least. I think I've fixed the model loading problem, but I haven't actually tested it yet, so I'm not sure if my fix is correct. But you
Well,
said you had some ideas and stuff, so let's talk about that.
it was mostly related to the uh, what was it? The thing you discussed last time, like
Mm-hmm.
hiring these villagers for yourself, and from that I just started thinking about other things, and I was wondering if we could just not have any crafting or anything like that for our, and instead just work supply for the NPCs in their own workplaces.
Hmm.
So that there's this kind of a pipeline and you can, well, I guess you could automate it over time or
Yeah.
automate.
So, the problem. Okay. Trying to think. So, uh, in many games, when you have a crafting mechanic, you want to have it like you want to have it be available to you at any time, so you can like make things in emergency situations.
No,
So
sure, but that would be limited crafting and not something not an anvil or workbench.
I suppose so. I'm just trying to think. Uh, well, okay. So how do you imagine that you would actually go and get items that you want from the villagers and stuff? How would that exactly work or play out if you want to do that?
Well, that's the other thing that we discussed that we if we don't enter like yeah, if you don't add any kind of economy to it, like there are no shops,
Mm-hmm.
then you could just, well, the villagers could just work on the whatever they create based on what you give them and how good they have got or something like that.
So So you wouldn't actually be able to say what kind of item you get, or what?
Well, you could by providing certain kinds of materials.
Hmm. I'm not sure. Like, one thing I'm always struggling with is you in a game like this, you really do want to separate the discovery phase from the repetitive phase, sort of. Um, where you want to be able, like, as a player, you want to be able to specifically say, now I'm going to try new things, and now I just want to get this thing done and not have any problems with it. So things that are just sort of random based or might end up in a situation where it's ambiguous what happens, I'd rather avoid that if at all possible.
Well, there's always a choice of having management for the what the villagers are working on.
What do you mean?
Well, place orders and they focus on those, for an
Mm-hmm.
example. Or you can walk in, give them materials and say, please make me this, and all these tools, or something like that.
So you would also imagine that building them all actually takes up real time, so it wouldn't be an instantaneous kind of thing, right?
Well, it won't really depend. You can actually make both ways. Like if you place an order to them and tell them to make something, you could get it right away if you want, but I don't know which works better.
Hmm. Well, the thing with waiting again is kind of hmm. It's hard to balance this kind of thing because if you make it wait, if you make the player wait, you introduce a sort of a management sort of strategy kind of mechanic. But on the other hand, it can be really obstructive if you just want to get this thing done and you need this other thing to do it, and then you gotta wait and just yeah, that can be really grating too. So I'm not sure how to.
Well, as I said, both can be like a thing. Like you can place orders that you get instantly, or just wait around until they make something interesting.
But then, what would be the benefit of not just getting it immediately?
So that there's things ready when you come back next time.
Yeah, but if
Or one.
if you just let it build immediately, you also have it already ready for. I mean, if you have the choice of making it immediately and making it later, why not always make it immediately?
Because that forces you to actually be in that one place, and well, I guess we could add some kind of a penalty to it, like taking more materials or something.
Hmm. I'm not sure. I don't like the sound of penalties. I'd rather go for positive encouragement, so have a sort of a benefit to letting the villagers do their own thing in their own time rather than having it go immediately. And at that point, it's kind of question becomes: do we really want to have the order system in all the time? Like it's the only way to get certain kinds of, I suppose, constructed items, or would you have sort of both the crafting system where you can build stuff like immediately yourself, but you can also give orders and get some kind of side benefit out of that? But it takes more time.
Yeah, I suppose. Like, if you make a hole, you could like get some. It works better.
Right, but yeah, that's kind of since you need to make this sort of recipe system really generic, the question becomes how do you generically define a benefit or a penalty? I mean, the simplest kind of thing is requiring less resources to make. But
yeah, I guess you could get it. It's sharper if they take more time on it or something like that.
yeah, but then that only really works with tools, right? But you want to craft other things as well, and then it becomes kind of hard to like specify how a certain thing can be improved.
What kind of other things? Like, since you can potions works the same, like you just get more health from a health potion then.
I suppose, but you could also craft like just purely cosmetic items and gifts and stuff and so forth, and you know. And I mean, if if you have things that actually do damage, would it be better if they did more damage or less damage? Like you also have often you have items that give you some kind of benefit in one stat, but a slight decrease or whatever in another stat. So how would that be better? Whereas you have things like a poison, which would clearly be better if it did more damage. So I don't know. It's just to me, it doesn't seem like that straightforward to define how an item becomes better. So I was thinking more other kinds of what kind of other benefits could you get from that? Like we could make a sort of. This goes more into sort of city management, I guess. But could you have sort of improvements to the village itself, making it more lively or something? But I'm not sure how that would like tie into the rest or how to even make that work at all.
Well, just the settlers kind of thing, where better roads just make everyone move faster and. Well, original thought I had on this was that, well, I will use an example. You are a farmer and get some wheat, you deliver it to the mill. Instead of making flour yourself, you just leave it there and they take it to wherever bakery somewhere.
I mean, this is some tough stuff.
Yeah. Game design.
Yay! Yeah, I mean, yeah, just making things faster is the other obvious kind of way to improve things, but I don't know. Maybe like if you give people an order, they would like get more friendly with you or something like that. They would appreciate you using their services and stuff. But then we like just where this leads me to is another problem, which is how do we decide which villagers can actually do things? Because if the villagers are supposed to be mostly randomized, how do we ensure that there's not a situation where you need a villager to build a certain thing, but they weren't randomly generated?
Yeah, I guess there has to be some kind of a job distribution system.
Hmm. Well, again, the job kind of thing also has to fit up with their skills and personality and stuff. Otherwise, it would be rather jarring. And then you get into kind of weird situations where you could not have certain characters unless they don't have a job at all.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but will personalities really matter that much to the job they pick? Like, if the job is already taken, can't they just take another one?
Hmm. I don't know. I mean, if like the simple example is someone who's really lazy, you wouldn't really expect to see them in a hardworking job. That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, true. Well, maybe they will be really bad at it until someone better comes around.
I suppose so, and that's actually an interesting thought, defining how well they perform at a certain task. I guess you could broaden this up so that you could potentially give any villager any kind of task, but depending on how they feel about it and how their skills are, it costs you more, or it takes way longer, or the result is crappier.
Yeah.
Hmm. Then you would eliminate the need for specific kinds of jobs, I guess. Hmm. Okay. Did you have anything else that you wrote down?
Well, there was this other thing that it's based on an was it some research article or something I got through university like years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it was about generating puzzles like randomly.
Okay.
Like it would base on how objects are able to interact with each other, and then make some kind of a path to a solution or multiple ones of them.
Okay, but how would you see puzzles be integrated into our game?
Yeah, that's what I didn't think yet. I just thought it would be a pretty nice idea, and so
I don't know. I don't see puzzle mechanics fitting into any place in this. Like I know there's games that do similar kind of farming kind of things, and they incorporate puzzles when you craft things, so you have like something to do, but it ends up being more annoying than anything. So I don't
mm,
know.
well, to get treasure, I guess that would be possible.
How would you imagine that exactly?
Well, say there's a how do I like you're in a forest. There's a thick bush, and you know there's a treasure somewhere there, but you have to get through it somehow, and you can't do it by hand because it's full of thorns. So you have to pick some item that does certain things with the bush,
Hmm.
like burn it or cut it or.
Right. But that doesn't seem really like a puzzle to me, does it? It's just.
Well, I don't know. I can't think any examples like on the spot like this.
Me neither, that's why I'm wondering how this is supposed to fit in.
But anyways, if you remember games where there were like some dungeons and you had to pull levers and things like that,
Hmm.
I guess something like that could work.
I suppose so, but are those things ever really engaging in any way? From my own experience, they most more seem like just annoying, boring kind of parts of the dungeon. the more exciting parts being fighting monsters and exploring. And these
Well,
puzzles seem more like, yeah.
I always like those kind of puzzles that require you to find some clues somewhere and like fit it into like some kind of a to create some kind of bigger picture and figure out what's happened even in there.
So more like a sort of an abstract key lock kind of situation, where you have to find a certain thing to advance.
Sort of, but there's actual reward besides just getting past somewhere or finding treasure, but actually finding out something new.
Sure, I was just thinking more in the sense of how like if we have, like, right now from what we've planned is sort of a central kind of village place, and then you have potentially different kinds of outskirt villages in other areas, and the areas in between could be randomized, so randomly generated or just changing after time because they're in this sort of weird mist fog kind of place that is kind of ethereal, I guess. And then you could see about some way to randomly generate kinds of puzzles where you have to find, I don't know, magic spells or runes or some shit, and then you can use that to unlock different kinds of fog gates. I don't know. Trying to picture it in my head visually.
Yeah, I actually tried to think something from the fog scene, the mist, and I had some ideas, but I forget what they actually were. If I can even figure out where they are. Well, I don't think I actually wrote those down.
Oh, that's too bad. Can you remember?
It had something to do with... Let's see, the mist... I do remember something about the dreamlike scenes happening there, and it actually changing the feel of the world itself.
Right.
When you enter it, but... how did I... It's been a week since I've thought about this.
Okay. I just had a sort of an idea about how to tie this all together. And in a sense, sort of, I'm kind of reminded of Bastion. In the sense that in Bastion, what happens is the world gets sort of torn up, and you only get like remaining sorts of fragments of it. And here was thinking that basically the world is kind of like a, as I said, ethereal kind of a dream kind of world. So only the places that are in active memory of people actually really exist. So the village exists because there are people in it, living in it, and thinking they're real. But everything outside of that sort of just dissolves into this mist kind of thing. And only while you actually pass through the area, it springs into existence. And then you have, like, this would also explain why during the night the fog creeps into the village and certain monsters start to spawn and stuff, because people go to sleep and they sort of start to forget about the world around them, and so it becomes less sort of manifested in reality, I guess.
Yeah, that actually sounds something like would really work. And would be actually interesting to explore.
Right. It's also not... What? Go ahead.
Just wondering, would this mean if the next day, when you enter the mist again, would it enter a new place instead of actually keeping the old one?
I'm not sure if the next day, but certainly if you haven't visited the area for a certain amount of time. Since we can't really rely on the day-night cycle, because you don't really need to go to sleep. So.
Yeah.
But yes, this could work out nicely. We can also work in some kind of grander history into this, and how the world actually came to be, and to be this kind of weird, shattered dream world kind of thing. similar to how Bastion works in that regard.
What worked?
Bastion.
Ah, yeah, Bastion.
Bastion is such a good game.
Yeah, but it was kind of a one playthrough thing for me at least.
I played it through, I think, twice or so. I don't know. Where was I? Right. So, I guess I'm just kind of trying to think about how this random generation is supposed to work, or what kind of things it actually randomizes. Like, what would the terrain and all that actually look like? I would rather like to avoid some kind of generic hallway situation, because that gets way too boring, way too quick.
Well, you can do it by having raw tile data that's just generated there, and then like build the land chunks around that, and hide things and details and all that kind of stuff.
Like, I know that there's like one easy way to make random terrain generation is have sort of predefined blocks and then define how they connect together. But that usually leads to still a very recognizably repetitive kind of pattern where things repeat because you know what they look like and you start to learn what the segments are.
Ah, yeah, it reminds me of that Diablo. Like, you always knew that the next door is facing a certain direction.
Right. It's the same kind of thing in Persona 2 with the dungeons, but way more noticeable there. So I was thinking more of a sort of a way in which the world is generated through a random kind of painting method, almost, where you just sort of, the program puts down splotches of different sizes and then tries to like find a path through, connecting the points, the important points, and then using some kind of erosion algorithm to modify that, and then use that as a kind of a height map, or at least use that as a map of where you can actually walk, and all the rest being sort of fog walls that you can't pass through or something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's an coming up with the algorithms to generate the world is, well, it's fun, but it really has to be taken time.
Yes,
nothing
of course.
but it.
It's just I'm just trying to brainstorm about ways in which to avoid this kind of generic repetitiveness that lots of random generators use to make their lives easier.
Let's see. Well,
another way would be to have, like, you span a line and then you add points on the line, like random points on the line, and then you mutate where they are in space randomly. So you distribute them randomly and you get sort of a randomized path. And then you just define the radius of the path segment points randomly as well, but making sure that the path at least connects every time to the next point. So that way you would get a sort of a spherical hallway that is carved out, I guess. So you get like loads of circles around it instead of just blocks.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember how Adam does it.
How, what does it?
Adam, ADOM.
I don't think I've heard of that. No, it's another. Okay.
It's really old game.
Right.
But I can remember that the way NetHack for one does it is it creates the rooms first and then it creates pathways to connect those rooms together.
Yeah, but like for a thing that is supposed to be sort of generic grassland in a foggy kind of thing, you really don't want to do rooms.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering how Adam did it again, since that's more about the actual world outside. Well, it does have dungeons that you go inside as well, but yeah, those aren't
Right.
the main thing. At least weren't for me.
Oops. Yeah, I think there's lots of room for experimentation there as well, so will be fun to try out a couple of things and see what sticks, I guess. Yeah. Anything else? I don't suppose you actually worked on the code any, have you?
No, not yet.
Alright.
I don't see. I should look the issues again and read through them. Read through the code, I mean.
Okay. I don't really have anything new from my side because I've been, like, last week has been really shitty for me. I've been trying to get stuff to compile and that's really frustrating.
Yeah, I noticed.
Not actually writing code.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yep.
Like, most of the days when I at work spend like 12 hours there, it's just been trying to get something to compile.
Oh, lordy. Alright, so... Yeah, we have half an hour done already, so unless you have anything else to add, I think we'll call it here.
Well, not really. I just really want to find time to actually work on this.
Yes, that would be grand.
But anyways, mostly tomorrow I need to spend just cleaning up.
Okay.
Oh well.
Alright, well then. I think we've found out some really neat stuff this time. I'm happy with that. Hopefully I'll have more to say next time, because I haven't really had any ideas myself.
Yeah, I've been thinking that I should actually write things down properly instead of just tiny notes.
That would be fantastic. You could also just put it into the repository as a sort of ideas.txt or something. I don't know.
That would work.
Alright then. Until next time, I guess.
Yeah, until next time.